All right, here I am, Mr. Pike. We are in chapter 11 of By the Great Horn Spoon. This is a long chapter, 14 pages, so I'm going to break it up into two sections. So this is chapter 11, part 1. Jamocha Jack. How he got his nickname, Jamocha Jack. Follow along, everyone. The stagecoach climbed as if it were part mountain goat. It lurched, it halted, it bucked, it leaped, and it clung. At times there was a sheer drop to one side of the trail. Far below, the pine trees looked to Jack like sharp green lances, waiting to skewer them if they slipped. He only looked once in a while. They were almost at the diggings, he told himself. He'd been telling himself that for days, but at last the stagecoach arrived, bringing a cloud of summer dust all the way from Sacramento City. "Hangtown, gents!" the driver snapped with a final crack of his whip. "Looks mighty quiet today. Don't see nobody standing under a pine limb with his boots off the ground." A dog greeted them at the end of the street, embarked them all the way up to the Empire Hotel. The passengers got out. There was road dust in Jack's eyebrows, in his ears, and down his neck. Now that they'd arrived, he had gold fever so bad that he didn't see how he could wait another 5 minutes to get his shovel on the ground. Hangtown. Everywhere he looked, there were men in jack boots and colored shirts. There wasn't a woman to be seen. Did you know that's true about the gold rush? There weren't many women at all. It was mostly just young men down there in the diggings. The miners were coming and going, or standing and talking, or sitting and whittling. Blue freight wagons were being unloaded. Blindfolded mules were being loaded. The store shacks on both sides of the streets were raised on wood pilings like short legs and looked as if they had just walked to town. Jack shouldered the shovel and Praiseworthy shouldered the pick. On the roof of the stage, the driver was throwing down trunks and hand luggage. "What's the best hotel in town?" asked Praiseworthy. "The Empire," answered the driver. "What's the worst?" squinted Cut-Eye Higgins. "The Empire." Praiseworthy glanced at Jack. "Unless I miss my guess, there's only one hotel in town, the Empire." It was exactly 1 hour and 5 minutes before Jack saw the diggings. First, Praiseworthy registered at the hotel. They washed. Immediately, Praiseworthy wrote a letter to Dr. Buckbee, advising him that Cut-Eye Higgins was in Hangtown, but that the map had fallen into the hands of a gang of highwaymen. "Can we go now?" said Jack, fidgeting. He had polished his horn spoon so much he could see his nose in it. "Go where?" "The diggings." "Oh, the diggings will be there after lunch, Master Jack." Praiseworthy's patience was a marvel and an exasperation. They'd come more than 15,000 miles, and now they had to stop to eat. Jack didn't care if they passed up eating for a week, a month even. He wondered if he could ever grow up to be as easygoing as Praiseworthy. But once they sat down in the hotel restaurant, Jack discovered he was so hungry that he ordered a bear steak. The only other item on the menu was soul belly and beans, and Jack figured you had to be starving in order to eat that. "You and the boy want bread with your grub?" asked the waiter. He was a big fellow in floppy boots. "Why not?" answered Praiseworthy. "It's $1 a slice." The butler slowly arched his eyebrows. $2 with butter on it." Praiseworthy peered at Jack and then smiled. "Hang the cost, sir. We're celebrating our arrival. Bread and butter, if you please." The bear steak was greasy and stringy, but something to write home about. Jack forced it down. Anyone here ever eat a bear steak? That's what I thought. Me neither. After they left the restaurant, Praiseworthy bought a pair of buckskin pouches at the general merchandise store and emptied the gold dust out of his glove. The index finger was springing a leak. Jack liked the new leather smell of the pouch. He tucked it under his belt next to his horn spoon and was beginning to feel like a miner. Then, with 10 wash basins under their arms and a pick and shovel across their shoulders, they set out for the diggings. The day was hot and sweaty, When they reached running water, they saw miners crouched everywhere along the banks. They were washing gold out of the dirt in everything from wooden bowls to frying pans. "Anybody digging here?" Praiseworthy asked when they came to a bare spot. "Sure is," came the answer. "That's Buffalo John's claim." The butler and the boy moved on upstream. Here and there, miners were shoveling dirt into long wooden troughs, setting in running water to catch the flakes of gold. "Anybody digging here?" Praiseworthy asked. "Yup," came the answer. "That's Jimmy from town's claim." On and on they went, looking for a place to dig. They passed miners in blue shirts and red shirts and checked shirts, and some in no shirts at all. Picks assaulted the earth and shovels flew. Weathered tents were staked to the hillsides, and the smell of boiling coffee drifted through the air. After they had walked a mile and a half, Jack began to think they would never find a patch of ground that wasn't spoken for. Suddenly, a pistol shot cracked the mountain air. Praiseworthy's wash basin rang like a bell and leaped from his arm and went clattering away. The wash basin is what we would just call a wash pan that they would use to mine the gold in. They had these little pans, and it just got a shot right through it. "You there!" a voice from behind bellowed. Praiseworthy turned. His eyes narrowed slowly. "Are you talking to me, sir?" "Talking and shooting. What you doing with my wash pan under your arm?" Jack stared at the man. He had a thick, tangled beard, and his ears were bent over under the weight of his slouched hat. "Needless to say, sir, you're mistaken," Praiseworthy answered. "Until this moment, I hadn't the good fortune never to set eyes on you or your wash pan, sir." "We don't take kindly to thievery in these parts," growled the miner, stepping forward. "A man steals around here, we lop off his ears. That's miner's law." "Well, do you have any laws against shooting at strangers?" "Nope." Jack couldn't imagine Praiseworthy with his ears lopped off. He took a grip of the handle of the shovel as a miner came closer, and his heart beat a little faster, and he waited for a signal from Praiseworthy. The miner belted his pistol and picked up the wash pan. He crimped an eye and looked over at it. "It's mine, all right." "You're either nearsighted or a scoundrel," said Praiseworthy. Jack was ready to fight, if not for their lives, at least for Praiseworthy's ears. Just then, a flash of tin in the sunlight from a pile of wet rocks caught Jack's eyes. He dropped the shovel and went for it. "Is this your pan?" Jack said. The miner's bushy eyebrows shot up like birds taking wing. "It is at that, ain't it?" Then he laughed as if the whole thing were a joke on him. "I'd forget my boots if I didn't have 'em on." Praiseworthy peered at the man. Apparently, shooting at strangers by mistake didn't amount to anything in the diggings. The miner hardly gave it another thought. "How about a cup of Jamocha?" "Jamocha?" said Praiseworthy. "Coffee. I got a pot working on the fire. Where are you strangers from?" "Pitch Pine Billy Pierce, they call me, and I'd rightly be pleased if you did the same." "Shucks, looks like I wore a hole plumb through your wash pan. Good shooting though, weren't it?" Praiseworthy put his finger through the hole. The wash pan was useless. "Perfect shooting, sir." "No hard feelings," said Pitch Pine Billy. I can show you more ways to wash gold than skin a cat. Let's get the coffee. Put hair on the boy's chest. Here, son." Jack looked up at Praiseworthy. "My son?" The butler started to explain, but the miner didn't leave long enough for a pause. "Mississippi Mac Finn has his 2 boys with him. I hear they just struck it rich over at Poverty Hill. And then there's the Peterman boy. He and his pa is trying their luck at the Swell Head diggings. What's your name, boy?" "Jack." "You look powerful clean for a young'un. Now, it don't seem natural. Somehow, why, your ears shine like new minted gold pieces." Jack felt his face redden, and he glanced over at Praiseworthy. "I'm not going to wash for a week," he thought, "or a month, or maybe even until we get back to Boston." There was a hospitality about the miner that pleased Praiseworthy, and he forgave him the hole in his gold pan. Sir, a cup of coffee would taste fine. Pitchpine Billy led them to his weathered canvas tent along the slope. And I'm going to take a break there and pick it up in part 2 next time, and I'll finish off the story. See ya.